Hi guys, we just left off with the dream. Alex was in her own dream when she fell out of the sky after she grabbed the Enchantress's power, and she had a conversation with Wendy and Dorothy and Lucy, and I believe Alice from Alice in Wonderland. And she's found a way to go back to the Enchantress without having to kill her. She's going to try to change her without harming her. That's what she wanted to do. So the next chapter is called chapter 28, and it's called The Greatest Magic of All. The Enchantress frantically paced back and forth in front of her throne. Her hair anxiously swayed above her. "Say it again," she demanded. "But I've already said it 10 times," Red said, still kneeling before the fire. "You will say it 100 times if that's what I ask of you," Osmia yelled. Red did what she was told. "I, Queen Red of the Red Riding Hood Kingdom, give my kingdom to you," she said. Osmia looked at the fire and waited for a change, but it remained the same. Just as high and just as strong. The Enchantress slammed her hands on the arms of the chair. "What's wrong, Esmia?" Rumpelstiltskin asked. "It's not working," she screamed. "I don't understand. I've been working on this for centuries. I've had everything I needed." Charlotte was sobbing hysterically in the birdcage. "You horrible, horrible, horrible creature," she cried. "How could you do that to a girl?" "I told you to shut up, woman," Esmia yelled at her. She could barely think. Charlotte continued her sobs, mourning louder in spite of Esmia's screaming. As far as Charlotte knew, her daughter was dead, and she was never coming back. Connor had been in shock since it happened, but as he watched the Enchantress struggle, his spirit started to rise. Esmia needed all 7 of the deadly sins and the air of magic to activate the portal. Maybe his sister had successfully taken her pride. Maybe she had finished the wand and was alive. "That dreadful witch Hagatha must have lied to me," Esmia yelled. "The fire should have grown into a portal into the other world as soon as I conquered the past, present, and future, and mastered the 7 deadly sins. Lust, envy, sloth, greed, gluttony, wrath, and pride." A strange look came to Esmia's face, the Enchantress's face, as she thought of the spell's ingredients. She looked to the spot where Alex had been standing when she was blasted into the sky. To everyone's surprise, a giant smile suddenly appeared on Connor's face. "What's the matter, Esmia?" Connor said. "Did a little girl take away your pride?" The Enchantress jerked her head towards him like a hawk finding its prey. "What did you say?" Esmia said sharply. "Connor, what are you doing?" Froggy whispered to him. "Don't make her angrier," Jack said. Connor ignored them. "I said, a little girl took away Esmia the Enchantress's pride," he called out so everyone in the Colosseum could hear him. "That's why you can't complete the spell." A whispered murmur spread through the Colosseum between the kings and the queens. Was Connor just taunting her, or was there truth to what he said? "Silence!" Esmia ordered him. "If you think my pride could be taken from me, you're all insulting your own intelligence. Bring me the boy to me." The vines lifted Red back against the wall and placed Connor in front of the fire. "No!" Charlotte yelled. "Don't you dare hurt him!" "Butter boy!" Trobella yelled. Connor wasn't afraid. "Are you going to kill me too?" he asked. "As a matter of fact, I am," the Enchantress said. "Oh, good one," Connor said spitefully. "Way to make yourself feel better, Esmia. Killing another innocent child really shows you're prideful you are. What are you going to do next? Club a couple baby seals?" The Enchantress had had enough of him. "Any final words?" she said. Connor had to think about it, wanting to make whatever he said count. "You're ugly and you smell bad," he said. "And where I come from, everyone thinks you're green with horns." Esmia raised her hand in his direction. Connor braced himself. "Esmia, look!" Rumpelstiltskin yelled and pointed to the sky. Flying toward the Colosseum was a large white horse with massive wings. As it flew closer, everyone in the Coliseum gasped when they saw who was steering it. Alex! Connor screamed. You're alive! Charlotte screamed from her cage. The horse landed in the center of the Coliseum, and Alex jumped off its back. She commandingly raised the wand of wonderment and pointed it at the enchantress. Miss me? Alex said. The enchantress couldn't believe what she was seeing, as if her day could get any worse. She waved her hands, and the vines dragged Connor back against the wall. Alex, don't waste any time, Connor yelled as he was dragged off. Just zap her, strike her dead! Esmea waved her hand again, and the vines covered Connor's mouth. The enchantress glanced sideways at Charlotte in the cage, and it all suddenly dawned on her. She wasn't the fairy godmother's granddaughter after all. Esmea slowly strolled over to Alex, looking her up and down like she was an interesting piece of art. So, you're the fairy's grandmother's real granddaughter, I take it, Esmea said, and began circling her. Alex never lowered the wand. She was ready to strike if Esmea showed any sign of doing the same. It's interesting that we have so much in common, Esmea said. We're both from the same place. We both have magic in our bloods, and we both possess extraordinary ability. We're nothing alike, Alex snapped. I could never do all the horrible things you've done. A smile appeared on Esmea's face. That's where you're wrong, she said. You see, I came into this world just like I'm assuming you did, full of excitement and promise. I wanted to do so much good work, help so many people, and give as much as I could to those who needed me. But then I learned a very harsh lesson. The world doesn't always give back. I am not a tragic case of the world. I am the world, cruel, unfair, and not a fairy tale. People are not born heroes or villains. They're created by the people around them. And one day, when your bright-eyed and bushy-tailed view of life gets its first taste of reality, when bitterness and anger first run through your veins, you'll discover that you are just like me, and it'll scare you to death. Alex shook her head and gripped the wand even tighter. No, Esmea, I'll never be like you, she said, because I would rather have nothing and a big heart than everything and no heart at all. Everything went quiet in the Coliseum. Esmea's hair was flowing above her, out of control. Oh, snap, Connor yelled. You need some ointment for that burn, Esmea? Esmea waved her hand, and the vines covered Connor's mouth again. You're brave with that wand in your hand, Esmea said to Alex, but I'd like to see you cross me with it out of reach. Alex knew this was her moment. If she wanted to defeat the enchantress for good, this might be her only chance. Fine, Alex said, and tossed the wand to the ground. I don't need it. The entire Coliseum gasped. Alex, are you crazy? Connor yelled through the vines covering his mouth. Pick it back up! Pick it back up! The enchantress roared with laughter at Alex's carelessness. You stupid girl, she said. You must have a death wish. I don't need a wand to defeat you, Esmea, Alex said. Whether I have magic in my blood or not, I'll always have the most powerful magic of all inside me. Compassion. And I have enough inside of me even for you. What? The enchantress said, bemused by her foolishness. Alex took a deep breath, praying what she was about to say would strip Esmea of her powers forever. Esmea, on behalf of everyone in this room, I apologize for what the world put you through, and I forgive you for all of the havoc you've caused trying to heal, Alex said. I'm sorry your family was killed when you were a little girl. I'm sorry no one was there to comfort you when you had your heart broken over and over again. I'm sorry the fairies never showed you the kindness they showed everyone else. And I'm sorry you felt revenge was the only way you could piece yourself together again. Everyone was looking back and forth between Alex and Esmea like it was a tennis match. Connor covered his eyes, afraid he was about to watch his sister be killed for real this time. The enchantress was taken aback by what Alex had to say. It had been the last thing she expected to come out of the girl's mouth. Esmea didn't know what to do but laugh. She threw her head back a number of times and let a malicious laugh erupt and grow from inside of her. Apology not accepted, Esmea said. She pointed her finger at Alex to blast her into the heavens again, but nothing happened. She pointed her finger again. Still, nothing was happening. Esmea tried with her other hand, but only got the same result. Esmea's hair gradually lost its magenta color and faded to gray, falling in her face one strand at a time. The fire in the crater diminished more and more by the second, until there was nothing left but skulls. The vines around the Colosseum squirmed like dying snakes, loosening their grip and releasing the people they held against the walls. "No!" Esmea screamed. "No! This is impossible!" The room watched in astonishment as magic slowly left the enchantress's body, and Esmea faded into an elderly and decrepit woman, too weak to stand on her own feet. The enchantress had lost her power. Alex closed her eyes and, possibly for the first time all day, exhaled. She turned back to her brother as he brushed the limp vines off his body. He, along with everyone else in the Colosseum, stared at her with enough pride to knock off the ceiling they had been one. A 13-year-old girl in a headband had been able to do what none of the crowned monarchs could. As Esmea withered away, she fell to the floor and crawled on her hands and knees. A small cackle came from her as she grabbed hold of the wand of wonderment left on the floor. "Alex, behind you!" Connor screamed. Alex turned to see Esmea pointing the wand directly at her. As she held the wand, her body and her magic were restored. Her hair flowed above her head. The fire in the crater ignited again, and the vines began to vibrate with life and started dragging people back onto the walls. Without time to think, Connor grabbed hold of Goldilocks' sword and ran toward his sister, slicing the vines as they tried to seize him. Esmea glared at Alex with an evil smile on her face and in her eyes. "Maybe I was wrong," Enchantress said. "Maybe I will have my own happily ever after all." Alex froze where she stood, petrified to her core. She couldn't believe how quickly the situation had changed. In a matter of seconds, she had gone from victory to defeat. A bright blast shot out of the wand and towards her, and Alex closed her eyes, knowing it was the end. This was how she was going to die. "No!" Rumpelstiltskin yelled. He came out of nowhere and jumped in front of Alex. The blast hit him in the chest, and he fell to the ground. Esmea watched in shock as the fatal blast meant for Alex had hit the only person she had ever considered a friend. Connor arrived at the Enchantress's side and sliced the wand of wonderment in half. The wand was destroyed, the magic drained from Esmea's body, and the enchantments around the Colosseum faded once again. Alex went to the floor and helped Rumpelstiltskin's head up in her lap. Connor dropped down next to her, but there was nothing either of them could do. "You saved my life," Alex said to the little man in her arms. "Why would you do that for me?" Rumpelstiltskin was gasping, and his eyes grew heavier by the second. "I just wanted my brothers to have something to be proud of," he grunted weakly. He smiled up at the twins, closed his eyes for the last time, and died in Alex's arms. "Oh no," Connor said. "Poor little guy." A heavy wheezing came from nearby. The twins looked across the floor to see Esmea crawling towards them. Her body was decaying and wilting at a speedy rate. "Looks like you've won," Esmea wheezed with difficulty. Alex and Connor looked at each other disgusted. Even as they held the body of her only acquaintance, all Esmea cared about was her legacy. They looked down at her with the most pitying eyes she had ever been viewed with. "No, Esmea," Alex said. "No one wins when there is a loss." Esmea rolled onto her back and stared up at the smoky sky. With one last rattling breath, her body rotted away until there was nothing left of her but the memory of what she had been. With nothing to validate the anger that powered her livelihood, the Enchantress's body and soul disappeared, a casualty to compassion. The kings and queens and fairies brushed the vines off their bodies again and happily embraced one another. The nightmare was over, and their kings were safe once again. King Chance and Cinderella held Princess Hope, and Cinderella wiped away tears of joy from her exhausted eyes. Sleeping Beauty wouldn't let go of King Chase. It was the first time in weeks that they had seen each other. Snow White and King Chandler helped Rapunzel brush all the leaves out of her hair, which was a several-person effort. Red kissed Froggy repeatedly all over his big frog head. Jack tried dipping Goldilocks for a romantic kiss, but her fugitive reflexes caught her to flip him over her shoulder by accident. Trobella walked over to Connor. Hey, listen, Trobella, I'm very flattered, but I'm not really interested in, he started, but the Troll Queen silenced him again with an index finger pressed to his mouth. No, buddy boy, let me do all the talking, she said. I understand this day has been hard on you, watching the squishy girl almost die and then narrowly escaping death yourself. I just wanted to let you know I'm in no rush for our wedding. Whether it's in 2 days or 2 weeks, I'll be waiting for you. Thanks, Connor said. Trobello winked at him and walked away, leaving him even more confused than before. The fairy council went to the glass jars in front of the golden chair and one by one opened the lids and released the souls trapped inside. The twins watched as the souls of the baker, the locksmith, and the soldier happily flew from the jars and disappeared into the sky above, free at last. The spirits of the king and the musicians hovered in the air behind the others, though waiting to join other spirits. The ghost of old Queen Beauty and Gloria floated into the Colosseum and up to their long-lost loves. They flew around, over and under and through each other, finally reuniting after centuries. Gloria and the musician looked to the twins and bowed thankfully to them before disappearing into the sky with the other spirits. The ghost of King and old Queen Beauty lovingly looked down and waved at Sleeping Beauty and King Chase before disappearing as well. Who was that? Sleeping Beauty asked her husband. King Chase looked up to the sky and smiled. Well, I suppose there are guardian angels now. Jack chopped through the lock on Charlotte's cage, and she ran to her children, throwing her arms around them. Mom! The twins said in unison. I have never been so proud of you in my life, she tearfully exclaimed. That makes 2 of us, said a voice behind them. The twins turned to see their grandmother. She had just been released from her jar and was back to being her old solid self. The twins got to their feet and gave their grandmother an enormous hug, feeling so grateful they finally could. Grandma leaned over and looked proudly into Alex's and Connor's eyes. You 2 amaze me more and more as you get older, she said lovingly to them. Your father would be proud of you. Alex and Connor smiled at each other, knowing that wherever he was smiling down at them too. The winged horse neighed loudly from the side of the Colosseum. Hey, Alex, where did you find a flying horse? Connor asked. Alex's happy grin suddenly faded. Oh no, I forgot about Bob, she yelled. Grandma, can you change him back for me? The fairy godmother laughed. She retrieved her crystal wand from inside her robes and waved it in the horse's direction. A bright beam of light traveled from the tip of her wand and spun around the horse until he was regular Dr. Bob again. He shook his head and found his balance dizzy from the transformation. Bob, is that you? Charlotte gasped. What are you doing here? I couldn't let you have all the fun, could I? He laughed. Charlotte ran to his side and kissed him. The twins had to look away. You won't believe what we went through, Connor told his mom. He was almost eaten by bears and sharks, and he was captured by the sea witch, and we'll let him tell you all about it, Alex said, while dragging her brother away. She figured it was best to give them some privacy. The twins and their grandmother walked to the edge of the Colosseum and looked out over the charming kingdom. The sun began to set, painting the sky a beautiful rosy shade. I'm sorry we ran away from the house, Grandma, Alex said, trying to sound genuine, but also trying to hide a smile at the same time. Yeah, Connor laughed. I feel so bad about that. He didn't even try to be sincere. Their grandmother shook her head and looked to the sky, fighting a smile of her own. What am I going to do with you 2? She said. Magic lessons, I think, would do you some good. That way you won't sink any more houses. I totally forgot about that, Grandma, Connor said. Sorry we sinked your cottage. Magic lessons? Really? Alex asked with large eyes as she hopped up and down. I think you earned it, their grandmother said, as long as your mother is fine with it. After all this, I don't think she'll ever be able to tell us no again, Connor said. What was that, Connor? Charlotte asked as she and Bob joined them at the edge of the Coliseum. Oh, Connor said and turned bright red. I was just saying you might have difficulty telling us no from now on because we saved your life. Charlotte squinted at him. I gave you life, she said. You're never going to top that. Connor tried laughing it off. I was just kidding, he said, although there was obviously an element of truth to it. The reunited family of 5 looked out over the land around them. As the sun set in the east, it also set on the reign of the Enchantress, and the twins could feel the Lannister sigh with relief. It was paradise once more. Next is chapter 29, and it's called For Better or For Worse. So we've only got a couple more chapters to go. Let's see. Yep, we've got chapter 29, and then we've got chapter 30 called The Goodbye. But I don't think it's going to be the end. See you next time.